No cameras, no microphones, only the heavy hush of crimson-robed cardinals in a wood-paneled chamber. When Pope Francis's personal secretary finished reading the pontiff's Ultima Voluntas, one man, Cardinal Luis Antonio Tagle, bowed his head and wept. He wasn't grieving a death. Francis was still alive, fighting to breathe after a 5-week stay at Rome's Gemelli Hospital for double pneumonia and infections. He was mourning the burden suddenly laid on his shoulders, a final wish that could remake the Catholic Church. Doctors had just ordered the 88-year-old Pope to take absolute rest for worsening bronchitis and mobility woes. But Francis instead summoned his senior advisors. His message was short, almost conversational. Guard the margins, let mercy lead the next era. No name, no legal command. Canon law forbids a pope from handpicking a successor. Yet every ear in that room heard the subtext. Francis had spent 12 years stacking the College of Cardinals with pastors who shared that vision. By April 2025, 108 of the 135 electors, 80% were his own appointments. A chessboard was set, and Tagle stood at its center. Jorge Mario Bergoglio once swept cathedral floors in Buenos Aires. When he became Francis in 2013, he ditched the papal apartments for a modest guest house, swapped brocade for plain cassock, and told aides he wanted a church that is poor and for the poor. His papacy championed migrants, the climate, and prisoners. He held Maundy Thursday foot-washing services in jails and refugee camps. Those gestures captivated the world, yet insiders knew they were also strategic, signaling that service would outrank status in whoever followed him. Half Filipino, half Chinese, Cardinal Tagle grew up in Manila singing at neighborhood masses. By 55, he ran Caritas Internationalis, crisscrossing war zones to hand-deliver aid. Francis promoted him to pro-prefect of the Dicastery for Evangelization and tapped him as special envoy to the 2024 U.S. Eucharistic Congress. Admirers call him the Church's best storyteller. Critics note he defended the opaque Vatican-China bishop appointment deal that enraged human rights groups. Even so, his blend of doctrinal orthodoxy and street-level empathy makes him papabile in almost every analyst's shortlist. Francis's final document avoided policy minutiae. Instead, it pleaded for a church that listens before it legislates, especially to Asia, Africa, and Latin America, the fastest-growing Catholic regions. It urged bishops to walk with the wounded and warned against ideological bastions. Vatican aides later whispered that the Pope's eyes settled on Tagle while those words were read. The torch doesn't need to be passed publicly to be received, one cardinals told reporters outside the meeting. Tagle's tears suggested he had already caught it. Inside Rome's marble corridors, not everyone welcomes that torch. Financial conservatives bristle at Francis's closure of lavish residences. Doctrinal hawks fear any loosening of rules on celibacy, LGBTQ+ blessings, or female diaconate. Yet, beyond Europe, young Catholics crave exactly that openness, while survivors of clergy abuse demand ruthless transparency. Tagle, who once queued with refugees for rations, personifies those grassroots hopes, but also triggers anxiety among curial power brokers. The approaching conclave feels less like a pageant and more like a referendum on the soul of the Church. When the 133 electors file into the Sistine Chapel on 7 May, watchers will gauge the chimney for black or white smoke. Visible drama hides quieter math. 89 votes clinch the papacy, and Francis's picks already number 108. Statistically, a Francis-style successor is favored. Still, coalitions shift. Italian traditionalists could rally behind Cardinal Matteo Zuppi, diplomatic centrists might prefer Cardinal Pietro Parolin, reformers tout Congo's Cardinal Fridolin Ambongo. If the ballots deadlock, momentum swings. Fast. 2 popes ago, Francis himself emerged only after multiple surprise rounds. Should the white smoke signal his name, Tagle's honeymoon will last minutes. First crisis, accelerating investigations into clergy abuse while overhauling Vatican tribunals. Next, rescuing scandal-scarred finances without alienating donors. Then comes geopolitics. China's bishop's deal, which Tagle once championed, is up for renewal against vocal opposition. Simultaneously, millennials push for women in governance and warmer words for same-sex couples. Quiet reform won't satisfy them. Rapid reform could trigger schism. Tagle would need a diplomat's. If conclave power brokers block him, Francis's mercy-first roadmap could stall. a Parolin papacy might tilt towards statecraft, prioritizing geopolitical accords over grassroots revival. Erdo would shore up doctrinal precision but risk widening the gap with Western youths. Ambongo could amplify social justice, yet face resistance in Europe. Each path reshapes the Church's moral compass and determines whether Francis's farewell plea becomes living policy or lost parchment. On 24 April 2025, Pope Francis died suddenly from a massive stroke, quickly and without suffering, according to his surgeon. He never saw how his last wish would play out. Now, the world's 1.4 billion Catholics wait for a puff of smoke. When it rises, will it crown the tearful cardinal who embodies mercy at the margins, or signal a pivot back toward fortress walls? Either way, the next pontiff will inherit more than a throne. He will inherit an unfinished revolution. And as history has shown, revolutions rarely stay silent behind closed doors for long. Stay tuned, the conclave countdown has begun, and the story isn't over. It's only changing chapters.